Buildings, paintings and books. The Iron Pillar. The Iron Pillar at Mehrauli, Delhi is an example of the remarkable skill of Indian craftspersons. It was made of iron 1500 years ago and has still not rusted. This pillar is 7.2 meter high and weighs over 3 tons. It was made probably in the Gupta dynasty because there is an inscription on it mentioning a ruler named Chandra. Buildings in bricks and stone. The skills of craftsmen are evident in the buildings that have survived, like the stupas. The common features which all stupas had is that there was a small box at the center of the stupa. This contained bodily remains like teeth, bone or ashes of the Buddha or his followers, or things used by them like precious stone and coins. This box, called a relic casket, was covered with earth. A layer of mud brick or baked brick was added on top. This dome-like structure was then covered with stone slabs. A path called the Pradakshina path was laid around the stupa. This was surrounded by railings. Entrance was through gateways. The entrance and railings were sculptured. Many of the carvings were made around 2000 years ago. A magnificent stupa at Amravati once existed. There were buildings that were hollowed out of rocks to make artificial caves. Some had sculptured and painted walls. Some earliest Hindu temples were built at this time. Deities like Vishnu, Shiva and Durga were worshipped. The religious rituals were performed at the Garbhagriha, the room where the image of the deity was placed. Sometimes a tower called Shikara was built on top of the Garbhagriha to mark this as a sacred place, like at Bhitargaon. Most temples had a hall known as Mandapa where people could assemble. Some of the finest temples were built in Mahabalipuram and Aihole. How were stupas and temples built? Usually kings or queens built stupas as it was expensive to construct them. There were several stages in the building of a stupa. First, good quality stone was found, quarried and transported to the site. Rough blocks of stones were shaped and carved into pillars and panels for walls, floors and ceilings. These were then placed in precisely the right place. Money to build these stupas came from the treasury of kings and queens. Devotees brought gifts to decorate the buildings. For example, an association of ivory workers paid for one of the beautiful gateways at Sanchi. Merchants, farmers, garland makers, perfumers, smiths, and hundreds of men and women whose names are inscribed on pillars, railing, and walls also paid for the decorations. Painting. Ajanta is a place where several caves were hollowed out of the hills over centuries. Most of these were Buddhist monasteries. These caves were decorated with paintings. As it was dark inside, most of the paintings were done in torchlight. The colors, which are still bright even after 1500 years, were made of plants and minerals. The artists remain unknown.